Good evening. My name is Arlene Miller, and it's my privilege to welcome you to this edition of Our Town. It's been some time since we've done a recording of our town, but today we have a very special guest, Senator Eric Lesser, a resident of Longmeadow. I'm saying this correct?
Yep.
And he's in his first term as a senator, a state senator in Massachusetts. So welcome.
Thank you, Arlene. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're thrilled
Appreciate it.
to have you. I'd like to start always with the big picture.
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about you. Do you like your job? And just sort of introduce yourself to the audience. So.
Love my job. So I grew up in Longmeadow, near you, and went to Blueberry Hill School, Williams Middle School, Longmeadow High School, and actually got my first start in politics and in government service in town, in Longmeadow. I was a junior in high school during a round of budget cuts and local aid cuts that were happening actually from the State House, and it was going to result in several dozen teacher job losses.
One of those.
Yeah, exactly. And at Longmeadow High School.
And the music department and
exactly,
all the other
yeah.
stuff.
So at Longmeadow High School would have meant dozens of teacher positions in jeopardy, which is, as you just mentioned, Arlene, means, where do they cut first? Art, music,
right.
Sports, all the things that kind of make our town school system so special. And I didn't think it was fair for 14 and 15 and 16-year-olds to bear the brunt of bad decisions, frankly, that had been made 90 miles east. So we worked with a big coalition of parents, teachers, students. We knocked on every door in town. And the interesting thing about that is after knocking on all those doors, the first vote that we put up to close the gap in funding actually failed. It didn't pass because, as you know, you've been...
Was this an override?
Exactly, it was a Prop 2.5 override.
Right.
It didn't pass, because those are hard to pass. So we actually put the measure right back up, a compromise measure, knocked on every door again. Second vote passed, and I saw actually those pink slips get ripped up and those teacher jobs saved. And for a 16-year-old watching this process...
Who couldn't vote?
Exactly. I couldn't even vote, but I was out...
Yeah.
talking to older residents who could, and it was an early lesson for me that despite all the messiness and the frustration and the and the kind of noise you hear in the political world, this is ultimately a very important way to make a difference. And so I caught the bug and first got involved then, and
it's a great story.
And it was it sort of taught me that at the end of the day, kind of all politics is local, as they say. And I continued that interest after graduating from Longmeadow High. I went to Harvard for my undergrad degree, and when I was there, I got wrapped up in the campaign of this skinny guy with a funny name from Illinois, Barack Obama. And
with funny ears.
Yeah, exactly, with funny ears. And my job for him started at the absolute bottom of the totem pole. I was in charge of carrying all the suitcases around on his campaign plane.
Oh, really? But you got to that level.
Yeah, yeah. And so we traveled together to 47 states, traveled over 200,000 miles through 2007, 2008.
Did you drop out of school to do that?
No. So I graduated in June of 2007, and I had started volunteering before that. And then basically, as soon as I graduated that June, went up to New Hampshire, where the first primary was happening, and never looked back. So,
wow, good for you. What fun!
It was a a really eye-opening experience. And after that, after he won, of course, I went to work at the White House. I spent 2.5 years there, working first for David Axelrod, who was the president's senior political advisor, and then for the Council of Economic Advisors. But the reason I wanted to come home and the reason I ran last year is, as great as that is, and it was a phenomenal experience.
I can imagine.
What I really learned and appreciated from that is, real change happens at the community level. Real change happens in our neighborhoods. It happens when kids go out and knock on doors for a, Prop 2.5 override, or communities organize, with their select boards or their school committees. So I was eager to get back to working in my home community, back to making a difference, where I grew up. So ran for Senate, won by 192 votes last year, and
you still won.
Yeah,
every
exactly.
Every vote counts.
Exactly.
My father would say.
Yeah, and it's a good lesson that every vote counts.
It definitely does.
And now I feel very blessed because I get to work every day in the community where I grew up, in the community where I played catch with my dad, and grew up with my sisters, and now raise my own daughter here. And we've been able to make some real progress the last year on some really important issues, whether it's the opiate addiction crisis,
Yeah, we'll talk about
job training
some
program.
of that.
So in a nutshell, that's the sort of how I ended up here.
And you like your job.
It's great, yeah, different every day.
Not a pain to go to Boston.
Well, you know, the commute can be a little tedious, especially when there's traffic.
That's why you're talking about rail directly.
Yeah. I will be the first one on that train.
We'll talk about that. Well, I was saying to you before we started talking, I in my mind thought that the state representative seats were a 2-year office. I thought that the senator seats were 4 years, and here you are again having to run again this coming fall. So with all the hoopla about this big election in 2016, you're going to be part of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, so people won't only be voting for president, they'll also be voting for Senate, for state Senate, for rep, you know, for a whole host of races.
So just have to remember when if they vote for president, to also vote for.
Yeah, I hope they stay down. Hope they stay down the ballot.
Be careful on that one. So it is special for the town to have both our state representative and the senator in Long Meadow. I mean, it's not a bad deal for the town of Long Meadow, because we can find you.
And it hasn't always been that way.
That has definitely not always been that way. We had Iris Holland certainly for a long time, and Mary, but that has not always been the way. But so tell me what I've read a little bit about you in the paper. I know a little bit about what you're interested in. I know you're not on the environmental committees, because I'm not bothering you about recycling issues. But
I do feel passionate about the environment, so we'll have to change those committee assignments.
Well, no, but as long as we know that, that's a good connection to know about, because there are some stuff going on with the environment. But I did read just days ago about your transportation efforts. So why don't you talk a little bit about what committees maybe you've gone you're on, and what your passion is, and what you've been. I know you're in the paper all the time. My husband says, "How does he do that?" I said, "He's not a fool."
That's funny. A lot of it. We're working hard. So, I'll run through some of the leadership positions I've been appointed to just in the past year, which has really been a great opportunity. Another big opportunity you mentioned. We have our rep, and Brian Ash, of course, and our senator, both from Long Meadow. By the way, one of the places I got my start was working on Brian Ash's race for selectman when I was in high school. So he's been a good friend for a long time. Sure. It's been really a lot of fun to work together. But another big thing for us is we now have the first president of the Massachusetts Senate from Western Mass, the first time in a generation. Really, Maurice Donahue was the last one from Holyoke. Stan Rosenberg from Rosenberg makes a big difference. So
that is right.
And that's a big help. He knows Long Meadow. He comes here. He has friends here. So that helps us.
He knows
quite
all
a lot.
of Western Mass. He's very active.
Exactly. And I can reference to him. Hey, I was at Williams Middle School, and he sort of knows what that is.
A little bit more Franklin County, but he's not down here too much.
So I'm the chair of the Committee on Tourism, Arts, and Cultural Development.
How can a freshman senator be a chair?
Well, it's traditionally been a committee that sort of the younger members do. But I've had a lot of
you don't get a lot of press on
it,
or maybe you do.
It's been a great opportunity for us, and actually it's very important for Western Mass because our cultural economy here is very, very important. And in Springfield, we've actually got quite a lot happening in the cultural space. A new Dr. Seuss museum coming. We're working to create a new cultural district in Stern Square, near where the new Union Station is going to go, a new dining district. There's, of course, a casino coming, so there's opportunities with that we need to make sure we leverage in terms of new visitors coming in, how we can leverage that to help Symphony Hall, City Stage, the Quadrangle, and the Springfield Museum complex. Big things we're thinking about there, but
so do you
very
focus,
exciting.
In that case, really more on Springfield than, I know the Berkshires is obviously a big tourism.
Yeah.
But so you do all Western?
So
keep all of us this side of 495.
It is a statewide role. So I'm the chair for the whole state Senate.
Yeah.
So it includes Martha's Vineyard, it includes everything. It includes the Berkshires and everything in between. So you do have to balance that, and you have to we have members of our caucus in the Senate who come from everywhere, not just from Western Mass. But one of the goals I've had, and I've worked very closely with Senator Rosenberg on this, is making sure that we, put a spotlight on everything that's happening in Western Mass, because traditionally we haven't had that kind of attention. I'll give you one example of what we've done. So, and there's ways we can break down some of the divisions that we've traditionally seen between Eastern Mass and Western Mass.
Good.
So one small example on the cultural space. So recently, we started new nonstop flights between Boston and Tel Aviv on El Al. This is a third day. Right now, they're 3 times a week. It was a big, complicated deal that Governor Patrick negotiated with El Al, with the Israeli airline carrier, to basically get nonstop direct service into Boston. Now, part of that deal includes money to market Massachusetts in Israel in Hebrew, getting tourists over here. It's mainly been focused, frankly, on Boston and Cambridge, on the educational institutions, on Faneuil Hall, et cetera, et cetera. Right. We've worked to incorporate Western Mass attractions into that. So they're also now they're going to learn about Basketball Hall of Fame. They're going to learn about Tanglewood. They're going to learn about the Berkshires. They're going to learn about Six Flags. And part of that effort, we brought the Israeli Consul General, the senior Israeli diplomatic official in New England, Israeli Consul General to New England. We brought him for a day of visits to Springfield.
I hope it was in the fall when the weather was gorgeous.
Yeah, it was a wonderful time. Okay. Went to the Hall of Fame, toured. We visited with local tech entrepreneurs at Tech Spring in downtown Springfield. Visited with a variety of business leaders, because again, even if we can marginally increase some of the visitor traffic from those flights, it can pay very, very big dividends for us.
Don't forget the river. We have a beautiful river.
Exactly. Yeah. And the nature and the natural attractions are a big appeal for people. Generally speaking, for every $1 spent on tourism promotion, there's a $7 ripple effect into the wider economy.
Interesting.
The reason for that is because if someone goes to the Mount Holyoke Range on a hike, or it goes to Mount Sugarloaf, or it goes to the Hall of Fame, they're not just walking in there and walking out.
Eat.
Exactly. They stop at restaurants, they stay over,
sure.
They shop, and so there's ripple effects into the broader economy. So that's been a big focus for us.
Well, great. That's great.
Yeah.
So that's one committee you're on.
Yep.
I know you're on a transportation committee
yeah,
of some
so
sort.
I'm a member of the transportation committee in the legislature, and to that end, probably what you've read about is our efforts on East-West Rail.
Right.
So this is a big opportunity, and it's
not the first time that's been talked about.
No. In fact, Mary Hurley, who is the mayor of Springfield,
the monorail.
Exactly. Has spoken about that for quite a long time.
Wasn't it actually a monorail right down the middle of the pike?
It's a little before my time, the specifics
you were just
of some of that.
In diapers then,
I'm joking. Mary's a good friend, and I'm joking with her that, I think I was like in preschool.
Yeah, no, I remember. Because she and I worked on the PBTA board together many years ago. And that was one of the times when she was talking about that rail. But so what's your vision of this?
So what we're looking at, just to kind of back up and give everyone the full context on this. Great. So we're talking about there's a rail corridor between Boston, Framingham, Worcester, and Springfield.
Now.
Yes, already up and running.
You can take a train now from Springfield.
You can take an Amtrak train right now called the Lakeshore Limited from Boston all the way to Chicago, stops in Springfield. The problem is it goes once a day. Yeah, exactly. It leaves once a day at 12:30. Has a 73% on time rate, which means a quarter of the time it's late.
Yeah.
And it takes over 2 hours to make the trip. So it's unusable.
And it's probably more expensive than a car.
Right.
Or a bus.
It's unusable. Yeah, it's unusable. No one uses it. The most expensive and the most complicated part of any rail project is getting the right of way. We have the right of way. The right of way is already there. So the question is, how do we beef up and improve and utilize the existing right of way that you already have trains operating on to get the passenger service faster and more reliable?
And would it come into the new Union Station?
Exactly. Yeah. So all of this is interrelated.
Sure.
Yeah. So
I wonder how long that's taken, because we were talking about that at the PBTA. Almost 20 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. It's taken a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
We went down to so Kennedy came, and Ted Kennedy, to cut the ribbon on the first talking about that thing.
Wow.
Long time
Yeah.
ago, long
Yeah. Well, here
Now
it is. It's
it
going
is.
to open
It's
next
great.
year.
Very
so.
exciting. Very exciting.
Yeah. So I mean, these are big, complicated projects. They take time.
Lots of money.
They do take money. But the thing that you have to think about is what's the cost of not doing it. There's a cost to not doing it also, and there's a cost to not having the connection. There's a cost to jobs. There's a cost to economic development. And I'll share one piece of this. UMass does a mass benchmark survey, they call it, where they basically study the economic health of the Commonwealth. They do it on a quarterly basis. And something that they found is over time, we talk a lot about income inequality. We have a growing regional inequality in Massachusetts as well, meaning that if you take Boston and the Boston area out, the rest of the state has actually had flat economic growth and in certain cases has still been in recession. We can't have a functioning Commonwealth, we can't have a functioning state if all the growth and all the job opportunities are hyper concentrated in one small area when the rest of the state.
I didn't think anybody in Boston cared, but I'm glad you do.
Right, but they're starting to.
Yeah,
And part of
that's
the challenge here
Because
is
it's not good for the state as a
exactly.
whole, if that's the case. It's lopsided.
It's not good for the state. Another point on that, Arlene, is one of the single biggest challenges Boston has with their future growth. And Mayor Walsh is a friend. We've worked together. He's working with us on this. One of the single biggest challenges they have with their growth and with their kind of projections is out of control cost of living, out of control cost of housing, which is going to strangle them.
It's going to drive people out here on your train.
Exactly. Yeah. One of the best ways to combat rising housing costs there is to improve transportation connections here, because a transference happens. We have a lot of really good housing stock, much lower cost of living. They have a faster paced job market. An exchange can happen that helps both ends.
So what's this? Is this train just a regular train, or is there something special about it?
Well, we'd like it. Yeah. Well, it'll depend a little bit.
I think I read
on
you
the
said
investment.
an hour and a half or something.
Yeah. The goal is it's completely realistic and actually fairly modest to expect 90 minutes between Springfield and Boston.
You can almost drive that. I'm sure you do.
Yeah. But the thing to think about is you take out traffic, you take out parking, you take out it has to beat cars. It's not going to be used unless it beats cars. Right. So part of my legislation is to do a feasibility study of really looking at, okay, what are the elements of this that have to be considered? How many people are going to use it? What's the spin-off effect? What's the cost going to be?
Now, are you involved at all in that regard with the north-south connection as well? Because I think I've heard pretty good things about that.
Yeah,
the connections
great.
into Hartford. I mean, I know people that take that train now.
Yeah,
that didn't before.
And I hope your viewers, listen, pay attention to this because it's a big deal. And I'm not sure a lot of people know this. Starting next year, there's going to be regular commuter rail service. Or there should be. Connecticut is the one doing this, but they're going to be setting up regular commuter service from New Haven to Hartford to Springfield.
I heard about that. Yeah, and into the city. Then.
Exactly. So you will be able to get. The plan. Now we still have a lot of work to do, but the plan is you'll be able to get a Metro North ticket at Union Station in Springfield and take it straight all the way through to New York City.
Right, in not too long a time.
Right.
I mean, it won't be 5 hours. It'll be like 2.5, 3 hours.
It'll be much. Yeah, it'll be much faster. It'll be like 3. The goal is like around 3 hours.
You might want to explain to our viewers a little bit of what's happening at Union Station, because it's going to be the nexus of a lot of stuff.
Happy to. So, Union Station, as you mentioned, has been a project for a long time. I mean, it's before me.
The federal government had contributed ideas to do design way back.
Senator Kennedy championed this. Congressman Neal has championed this for decades, a long time. Congressman Oliver as well worked very hard on this. So it's coming to fruition after decades of work. And the idea behind it, what it is it's intermodal transit facility. So it's taking all the various transit components and putting them under one roof. So
is Peter going to move there, or is he going to connect?
I think that's the plan. The plan is to have PVTA, and regional bus service, intercity bus service, Greyhound, Peter Pan, those types of things, Bolt bus, that kind of stuff. North-south rail service and east-west rail service, all under one roof.
And in addition, shops.
Exactly, and
mean,
there'll be shopping, there'll be office. It's the vision is like a South Station
Right.
or a small Grand Central Terminal
Or
in
in
New
DC,
York.
what's it called?
Union Station,
Station,
yeah.
yeah.
So just for your viewers to understand this, to paint a vision. In a few years, you're going to have the casino in the north end of in the south end of Springfield, anchoring the south end. They're expecting hundreds of thousands, even over 1 million visitors a year there. You're then going to have in the south end, in the north end, just a short walk, less than a mile apart, anchoring the north end. You're going to have a new Union Station. You're going to have at least 8 trains a day going north-south, eventually maybe getting up to 10, 12 trains a day. Then you're going to have maybe 8 trains a day going east-west, plus all the bus service. Think about what that does to the pedestrian traffic. Think about the activity levels, the dynamism it creates. Think about what that does for property values.
Right.
And the important thing we now need to think about as policy leaders and our community needs to think about is what's that walk from Union Station to the casino site, basically like where Red Rose is.
Mm-hmm.
What's that walk going to be like? Well, because that's the key.
Attractive and safe.
Right. The key is getting energy and multi-use downtown. Well, we had Anita Walker, the chair of the Mass Cultural Council, here last week at my invitation to take a look at this, because now on that walk, you're going to pass Stearns Square. We're putting in a new cultural district there. There's going to be a new innovation cafe opening next year. Valley Venture Mentors, a new tech incubator, is going to be opening there.
Wow,
We're putting in new
Who's funding all this?
It's all a combination of state, city, a lot of private development, and some federal money as well.
Okay.
So we're going to be doing improvements for sidewalks, lighting. We're going to be doing a new placemaking program to put up better pedestrian-oriented signage all around downtown. We're getting new cultural council funding for the community music school, which is also down there, Springfield Symphony Hall. So there's a lot happening. But one thing I'll just warn everyone, none of it is inevitable. None of it is going to happen on its own. It's going to require everyone
leadership, money.
Right, participating, leadership, money.
Some inconvenience in construction.
Exactly.
Which we're already feeling.
I think in a short time, I think the future is very bright for our area, because in a very short period, if those pieces start to fall together, Springfield and the whole region is going to be a very different place for the positive.
Yeah. Some people are worried
in a
about the
short
impact
time.
of that, of course, on Long Meadow. And so we'll be watching that, I'm sure, as a community very closely, how it's going to affect Forest Park.
Yep.
Because it's not that far
Yep.
from any of that. And
We,
then,
we live right next to it.
right,
Yeah.
and then how much that's going to flip into Long Meadow. Now, you said you had another appointment, so I want you to stick on
Yeah, sorry.
No,
Talk all night, yeah.
No, that's great, and that's why I said 30 minutes, is that enough? But, so you've got tourism, transportation, which of course are connected in a big way. I know you, I have a spy that told me that you attended an event at Roca.
Yeah.
So, what's your connection to that?
Well, I'm a big fan of the organization.
You explain a little bit about it.
Yeah, so Roca, for those who don't know, is a program basically targeted for men coming out of
It means
prison.
rock, I think, Roca in Spanish.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's basically a program targeting men, coming out of prison, and taking that population and really working with them to access to job training, access to life improvement skills, and it's really a wonderful, wonderful program, and has had some really visionary leadership. So that specific event, I was really just there to kind of show my support. And,
Well, that's great. That's great because it's a very little unknown, probably incubator in downtown Springfield, which is trying to get this population of individuals back into society in a healthy way. So
Exactly.
they get out of prison, they don't know what to do, they've got to break some old habits, they've got to get a job, they're now felons. How do you do that if you're a felon?
Right, and something we need to think about too is in our society is criminal justice reform, and thinking through some of these laws that we've had on the books for quite a long time, and ask ourselves, are they actually preventing crime, and are they actually allowing people, once they've done their time, to re-enter society and be productive members of society? And I think it's I'll give you an example we're working on. So actually just recently, Massachusetts Senate there was a law that got passed during the war on drugs period in the 80s that said that if you were convicted of any drug-related crime of any type, even just a non-violent, just possessory offense, your driver's license was revoked.
Right.
In some cases for years. And even after you did your time and you served your sentence, you couldn't get your driver's license back.
So how can you go to work?
Right. Now, people should think about that, right? Because, you know, on first blush, you say, oh, yeah, like yank the license away. And everyone is prone to that temptation. We understand that. But think through what that actually means, because what it essentially means is you've lengthened the prison sentence, because no one, especially in Western Mass where there's very limited public transportation, if you can't drive, how are you going to get to work? How are you going to be a member of society? So it was very counterproductive, and it was creating more problems than it was solving. And so we voted to remove that restriction, and actually just yesterday, House and Senate agreed on a final version, so that's going to go to the governor's desk.
I saw that, actually. The League of Women Voters was lobbying for you to support that.
Yeah, thanks for the help on that.
That's exactly right. Well, it's interesting because the same area you're talking about, all this exciting development in tourism and money and, you know, transportation, is the same place that, this is the same city that has a crime problem. So without these kinds of visionary programs, money into them and help with them, it seems like there's going to be some tension in the city. The city has maybe a little bit of a reputation about be careful where you walk, too. So that's
it all
part
has
of
to work
this.
together.
That's right.
Yeah, it all has to work together. I'll again, to use the example of the things we're working on in Springfield, right? It all has to work together, right? You can't have economic development without public safety. You also can't have public safety without economic development, because people need pathways to jobs, people need pathways to opportunities. So you got to work on both. We've got to get our substance abuse crisis under control, which we signed a big bill, strongest in the country. Governor signed on Monday. We worked very hard, thousands of hours of work. Yeah, so 90 in a kind of very Cliff Notes version, because I know we're pressed for time, but 75. Just to give people a sense of what's going on here. 4 people a day on average are dying in Massachusetts from heroin overdoses. Longmeadow is not immune, tragically. We've had many of these cases in town.
Correct.
4 people a day are dying. In 2014, over 1,200 people died. To put that in perspective, more people in Massachusetts are now dying from heroin than die from guns and car accidents combined.
When you say heroin, you're not talking Oxycontin, those things. You're talking actually heroin.
Those are
the same sort of
they're kind of opioids.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
a lot of the overdose deaths are heroin, but yeah, they're related. They're the same class of drug. So 75% of those deaths are from people who started, to answer your question, on Oxycontin, Percocet, some type of opiate-based prescription painkiller. What happens
in a legitimate manner.
Right. They get hooked, run out of money, move to heroin, which is $2-3 a bag in a lot of areas now. So what we've done is we've really zeroed in on trying to get a handle on the prescription drug abuse, because that is what's driving the heroin trafficking and the heroin use. So what we've done, we set up a new drug stewardship program. Pharmaceutical companies are going to have to pay for.
I love it.
Basically saying you're profiting, you're making it, you need to ensure safe disposal of the excess drugs.
We call it product stewardship in the trash industry.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad this is the first
in the country
product stewardship drug program. You have made strides in providing for free to police stations the drug take back, the kiosks, which has been phenomenal. I'm just working on an article for an Earth Day thing about that.
You're doing a lot. You got your hands on a lot of stuff.
That's nothing now. Now, tell me what this allows, this new program.
Yeah, so there's going to be a charge, basically, that the pharmaceutical companies will have to pay. A portion of their sales of these certain class of highly addictive narcotics is going to have to go towards a program which they will be responsible for setting up and administering with state oversight to promote safe disposal.
No, but does that include being allowed to take it back to the pharmacies, or is it going to be to like the drug take back kiosks?
So the law delineates several options. So that it's going to be on them to set it up and to get it running. But yeah, it can include take-back programs. It could include safe disposal at home. There are things like there are kits you can have where you pour it in and you close it and it dissolves. You throw it in the
DEP has
garbage.
a formula to do that stuff.
There's
too.
there's buyback programs which have been very effective, because that actually is the most effective, because if you buy it back,
Weird.
People are motivated to bring it in.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so
like the bottle bill.
Yeah, exactly. It's like actually exactly. It's modeled off recycling.
Kind of stuff, yeah.
With bottles. So, you know, they're going to be setting that up now. I mean, the law was signed on Monday, so that's going to begin. We're also doing a lot with access to Narcan, where we closed the pharmacy shopping loophole. So now it's going to be very hard for people to pharmacy shop to get excess pills and what their prescriptions were for.
We should mention that in our town, in Long Meadow, in the police station, there is currently a drug take-back open 24/7. Anybody, no questions asked, can bring unwanted medications and leave them in this safe, secure, bolted to the floor piece of equipment. So it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
So real quickly, because we've been given the sign.
I apologize.
No,
Welcome back.
Don't apologize. You're up for re-election in November 2016. What's been your best thing that you've learned since you've been in the Senate?
Oh, yeah. I think really the
the
work we've done around substance abuse has been, the most fulfilling. I mean, almost every day, a day doesn't go by really where I don't speak to a family member or someone who has struggled with this crisis. It's that bad, and it's been that intense.
How fun is that? Awful.
I think and it's really motivated. This is an example of why this stuff is real. We're bombarded on the national level with all of this acrimony and nastiness in our politics. I think at the end of the day, people have to appreciate, because of the bill we passed on Narcan, it's life and death. If the police officer has Narcan in their car when they show up at a 911 call, the person might live or will live.
And often children, probably.
And if they don't have Narcan, the person is going to likely die. This is real stuff. It's life and death. And the ability to work, even in a small way, on trying to make a difference moving forward is why we do this. So
you've enjoyed it, and you're looking forward to it again.
Oh, yeah.
How many more years do you want to be in the Senate?
I don't know. I'm young, so I'm 31, so I got a lot of time left.
Time to go. Well, you have an office locally. It's in
60 Shaker Road in East Long Meadow.
East Long Meadow. Okay, and you don't mind people bothering you?
No, yeah, they pop in anytime.
Anytime,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
they can contact you. So my guest is Eric Lesser, Senator Eric Lesser, who represents. How big is your district?
I've got 9 communities, Springfield, Chicopee, Belchertown, Granby, Long Meadow, East Long Meadow, Hamden, Wilbraham, and Ludlow.
You can come to our hazardous waste event.
Yeah, exactly.
You represent all those people. You could lobby there. That's a great opportunity, by the way.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll do it.
We'll do that date. Well, thank you for coming
Thanks,
and
Arlene.
talking to me about our town. And for our audience, bother him if you have a question or a problem, and keep your ears open for the good things he's doing to represent us. And I'll put in a plug. Remember to vote in November for Eric and whoever else you decide to vote for. I'm a big believer in voting. And thank you for joining us, and good night.